India and Israel haven't always been the closest of allies, but with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's historic visit to Israel, that looks like it's about to change.
My singular honor to be the first ever Prime Minister of India to undertake this groundbreaking visit to Israel.
We love India. We admire your culture. We admire your history, your democracy, your commitment to progress. You said that when it comes to India-Israel's relations, the sky is the limit. But actually, my friend, the sky isn't the limit, because today, even our space programs are working together to achieve even greater heights.
Security issues are set to dominate the talks between the two leaders, but they also want to nurture a growing trade relationship. When the two established diplomatic ties in 1992, trade between them stood at just $200 million. By last year, it had ballooned to nearly $4.2 billion. Israel had a small trade surplus of around $630 million with India last year, not taking into account information technology. The two sides have been discussing a free trade deal for years, and according to Israel's envoy to India, Modi's visit could serve as a catalyst towards finalizing it. Military deals are a big part of the trade between India and Israel. The Stockholm International Peace Research Institute says India is Israel's biggest defense customer. But India is also keen to tap into Israeli technological advances in other fields, including transportation and agriculture. Israel is already helping Indian farmers with cultivation, irrigation and harvesting. Israel, meanwhile, is eager to tap into India's growing demand for goods and services from its expanding middle class. Modi is breaking from protocol of most other visiting leaders by not going to the occupied West Bank. With trade high on the agenda, both leaders have plenty to gain from Modi's pivot towards Israel. Azhar Sukri, TRT World.
Well, we have Greg Karlstrom in Tel Aviv for us. He joins us tonight. Greg, thanks very much for joining us on Money Talks. Let me start by asking why it's taken so long for an Indian leader to come along since the ties were re-established. Why is Modi visiting now?
Well, it's been a long time in coming. As you heard just earlier, they established diplomatic relations in 1992, but for a long time, Indian prime ministers were reluctant to publicly embrace Israel. Partly that was to avoid offending the very large Muslim majority in India. Partly it was because India, for a long time, had a very pro-Palestinian outlook on politics. It was a reliable pro-Palestinian voice at the UN. That was often very critical of Israel in international bodies. And it's really only been since Modi took office 3 years ago that they've done sort of this public about-face and brought the relationship out of the closet, as one Indian diplomat put it this week.
Yeah, and let me ask you about, he's sort of avoiding the Palestinian territories. What is the purpose of that, do you think?
Well, the Indians are quick to stress that they don't want this to be portrayed as a snub, and they said Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian president, met about 6 weeks ago in New Delhi with Modi. He went there on a 3-day visit. They had a number of high-level talks. So the Indian diplomats here, again, they say this was not a snub, but it's being interpreted that way, I think, by both the Palestinians and the Israelis. It's a standard part of the tour here for any visiting foreign leader. You come, you go to Jerusalem, you go to Tel Aviv, but you also make a trip over to Ramallah to meet with Mahmoud Abbas, to meet with the Palestinian leadership. And so again, it's being seen certainly by the Israelis as a sign that India is moving further away from what was historically a very pro-Palestinian foreign policy towards a much more pro-Israeli policy.
Greg, just one more question for you. We talk about trade now. It is up a great deal since they first established diplomatic ties a quarter of a century ago. Just break it down for us a little bit. Who's selling to whom?
Sure. Well, the biggest thing, as you heard a few minutes ago, has been defense. That has been the centerpiece of the relationship. There were about $600 million worth of Israeli arms sales to India last year. That number has ballooned this year. Since April, they've signed about $2 billion worth of arms deals, mostly for advanced surface-to-air missiles, for missile defense systems, and for drone aircraft. Beyond that, a lot of it has to do with agriculture, and water technology has been an important piece of it. Modi, on his visit here, visiting both a high-tech farm that uses a drip irrigation system, and tomorrow going to look at a desalination plant. And the Israelis are quite keen to sell that technology to India. They think a country of 1.3 billion people, a country that has chronic water shortages, is certainly a major market for anything to do with agriculture and water.
All right, Greg Karlstrom, thank you very much for that update from Tel Aviv.